Now we will stand and say, surely the presence. Feeling discombobulated here without my stand. Good morning, everybody. And if you may have noticed, Barbara looks very different today.
Rough night, what can I say?
It is Pride Month. So, Barbie, if you're watching, I hope you feel better very soon. Barbie just has apparently the stomach flu. So we are blessed to have Kevin in her space. Thank you very much, Kevin. Please silence your cell phones if you haven't already. And I will say the daily word. Optimism is today's daily word. Optimism colors my world with love. My experience of the world depends on the attitude I bring to it. When I hold positive thoughts and share the love in my heart generously, the world becomes an inviting, friendly place. Optimism makes me a magnet for positive people, exciting opportunities, serendipity of all kinds. It lifts my consciousness out of the mire of worry, anxiety, and fear, and keeps me focused on the beauty of this earth, the goodness of people, and the presence and power of God. When I perceive God in the kind acts, selfless impulses, and loving service happening all over the world, my optimism grows. I feel renewed and inspired as I focus on what is right and good in my life. Gratitude for the world's wonders, I grow in optimism. Do not overcome by evil, but overcome evil with good. Romans 12:21. I was thinking about that as I was reading this morning and thinking, I prefer do not be overcome by negativity, but be overcome by positivity. Optimism colors my world with love. And it's funny that this happens to be the daily word, because I was just saying to Tom last week after his service that we have been talking about abundance last week and prosperity. And I've noticed just a couple of times, besides the fact that people always ask if I need help coming out of a grocery store. So if you ever need help, just bring me with you, because you know they'll ask. I'm telling you, yeah, they always ask if I need help, which is incredibly kind. Besides that, I've had twice lately, once in McDonald's, in the line of McDonald's, somebody paid for my food, the car in front of me, which was just so kind. And last week I was in Cumberland Farms and somebody had a lot in their hands, so I said, why don't you go in front of me in line? And he did, and he said to the cashier, I'm paying for her things. And just very, very nice, sweet man. And so what the Daily Word says has been true in my life, and it has been true in a lot of ways in the last year. So when I get anxious, particularly about money, I really try to go back in my mind and say, there is enough. There is enough. I will be okay. Now I'd like to say our mission statement. Please say it along with me. We are a loving, nurturing community dedicated to being a positive path to spiritual living, to awaken oneness with God within us all. We dedicate this year to activating the abundance and prosperity in our lives with gratitude, love, action, connecting to the divine within us and the world around us. So, how do we connect to the divine within us and the world around us? It's a good question to ask yourself throughout the week. How will you do that? One of the ways we do that is after service, we have a meal and share with one another. And it is my hope someday that we'll be here and someone that we've never met who listens online will just walk in and we'll get to meet you and you'll join us. That would be a lot of fun if that could happen. And we also share with others when we volunteer. There's a lot of people who come to this church that volunteer in various places. And that's how we share our prosperity. So, personally, I don't like talking about how we broadcast online, and everybody knows we broadcast online. So, I will just say, you can look online at our previous services if you like. They are on Facebook and on YouTube. You can scroll through them and look at previous services if you like. We also on our website have a donate button, and we also have Tithely. The donate button will allow you to donate through Tithely. It's easy. And if you prefer, if you'd like to send a donation to us, you can mail it to Unity of the Seacoast, McConnell Center, Suite 246, 61 Locust Street, Dover, New Hampshire, 03820. If you're looking to see about our various activities that we do, you can look at our Meetup page that we have on meetup.com, Unity of the Seacoast. Some of the activities include Charlie Richard's meditation, which is on the first Monday of each month at 7 p.m. on Facebook Live. We also have a Reiki Circle on Wednesdays here from 3 to 5, and it is donation only. You can come if you're not able to donate finances. We believe in tithing your treasures also. We have Poets in Unity on the 15th from 2 to 4 here, and we have the Acoustic Circle on the 16th from noon to 3. Come celebrate Father's Day with us with some wonderful music and nice chatting between each other. Family game night is on the 28th this month at 6:30. So now I'd like to participate in the tradition that many Unity churches do, and it's very meaningful to all of us. Namaste. Namaste is a Sanskrit word that means the Christ in me sees and honors the Christ in you. All stand, please, and we will say Namaste. Now, if you'd like to play. Wow, that was wonderful. Thank you very much, Kevin. So now I'd like to introduce our minister, Tom Schuyler.
Thank you. That was the right amount of words. I love it, Trace. So this week I was thinking about how the little things that we do, that was the right stand, the little things that we do can affect the rest of the world, even continents away. And I read an article about Bono from U2. He was at a concert and he got the audience really quiet. And he started clapping his hands like this. He says, every time I clap my hands like this, a child in Africa dies. And someone will, well, quit doing that. That was a joke, folks. That was. Boy, this is going to be a tough crowd. So first, Barbara, if you're watching, feel better. If you're not watching, still feel better, and we're talking about you. Kevin, thank you for coming in on such short notice. Always glad to hear you, and just really thank you. So today is a talk on Jacob. This one I do for me. Every once in a while I write one that I just enjoy. And that's because I love the old stories of the Bible. They just read great. And I always say, when you start to read them, get rid of trying to learn a lesson, get rid of anything you've been taught, and just read them as a story. And Jacob, I just love going to that story because it's fun. I don't know if you remember Abraham. He's the one that God made the promise of the Holy Land to. He was married to a woman named Sarah. He had a son named Isaac. And God tested him saying, take your son up to the mountain and kill him as a test to me. And I'm sure Isaac didn't think it was a good test. Sure, for an activity, would have thought, hey, Dad, can we go play ball? Maybe shave a goat, smite a leper, something. Count the open sores on the neighborhood kids. But Isaac eventually grew up, not with a lot of help from his father, but he married a woman named Rebecca, and they prayed for a child. And it turned out that she struggled in her pregnancy. Turned out it wasn't a struggle. She was carrying twins. And it mentions this in Genesis 25:23. And the Lord said to her, 2 nations are in your womb. 2 people shall be separated from your body. 1 people shall be stronger than the other, and the older shall serve the younger. So right from the get-go, we have drama building. God likes to stir up animosity in as many ways possible, especially in families. I like to think that God invented the soap opera. The first child was born, and they described him like an ogre. But he's described as a hairy garment, not looking like a hairy garment, but a hairy garment. And because of this, he's named Esau, which must mean like hairy little bugger or something. The naming system back then needed a lot of improvement. It did nothing for self-esteem. Hey, Esau, this is your cousin, big lips and pimples. So the first little guy was named Esau, and the second twin was born, and he's named Jacob. And as they grew, Esau was the outdoorsy type, a skilled hunter, and Isaac favored him a lot because of his masculinity. Jacob was the indoor type, a thinker, and his mother, Rebekah, favored him the most. Today, would be known as a mama's boy. One day, Esau comes in, and he's very hungry, and Jacob is making stew, and Esau asks for some. Not only does he ask for some, but he offers his birthright to him. Certainly, this is above Dinty Moore stew. A birthright is what's given to the firstborn, sort of the way Prince William gets to become king and Harry gets to take out the royal garbage. So back when the Lord said the oldest will serve the youngest, this is how it began, over what I hope is some pretty awesome stew. We also learned that it wasn't even meat stew, it's lentil stew. I've had some good lentil stew, but it's never quite enough to give my birthright to. He should have held out for lamb or goat. And then this happens, Genesis 26. There was a famine in the land, besides the first famine that was in the days of Abraham, and Isaac went to Abimelech, king of the Philistines in Gerar. And the Lord appeared to him and said, do not go down to Egypt. Live in the land which I shall tell you. Dwell in this land, and I will be with you and bless you, for you and your descendants. I give you all these lands, and I will perform the oath which I swore to Abraham your father. And I will make your descendants multiply as the stars in heaven. I will give up to your descendants all these lands, and in your seed all the nations of the earth shall be blessed. Because Abraham obeyed my voice, kept my charge, my commandments, my statutes, and my laws. God had just reassured Isaac of the promise that he made to his father Abraham about giving him and his descendants the promised land. Why do you need to know that? They're still fighting over this today. But for the purpose of the story, he just made sure Isaac knew that his descendants will be blessed and cared for. They get the lands, and his descendants will multiply like the stars, which is awesome for Isaac, and which is awesome for the firstborn because of the birthright, except for that really good stew. Now, as time came to pass, Jacob got old, and it was losing a lot of his senses. He had to give the oldest son his blessing. Jacob and his mother Rebekah discussed this. Isaac requested Esau go kill an animal and make a savory meal so he could eat and give him his blessing. Isaac's senses again were failing him. His eyesight was gone. So Rebekah told Jacob to dress in Esau's clothing and quickly prepare a meal, and they brought it to Isaac. So he brings Isaac the food. I'm sure it's very good because we've learned that Jacob is no slouch in the kitchen. And Isaac believed he was talking to Esau because of the smell and the feel of his clothes. And Jacob was given the blessing, which meant he has now secured the birthright and given lordship over all of Isaac's possessions, including Esau. So there's drama building here. Twins, each one favored by a different parent, each one different. A prophecy that the older shall serve the younger, and all the things now are lining up or made to line up to make that come to fruition. It was probably a loose joke, I will give you my birthright, but Jacob took it serious. And it was not forgotten by him or his mother, who would sell out her firstborn for the benefit of the secondborn. Deceit made it happen. Many of the stories in the Bible are very much like Shakespearean novels. There's all this backstabbing and stuff that goes on. So Esau learns of this, and no doubt he's angry. And he tells Isaac, and Isaac tells him, well, I cannot go back on my blessing. You must now serve Jacob. Esau wants Jacob dead. He decides after his father dies, he's going to kill Jacob. And this anger has happened in the Bible before, Cain and Abel, and God does this. Rebekah warns Jacob, and she also tells Isaac, because she knows that if Isaac kills Jacob, she's probably next. So Isaac sends Jacob away to Rebekah's brother's house. He sends him to Laban, who's Jacob's uncle. And he also in this says he does this because he does not want him to take a wife from this village, probably to prevent inbreeding. Genesis 28:10. Now Jacob went out from Beersheba and went toward Haran. So he came to a certain place and stayed there all night because the sun had set. And he took one of the stones of that place and put it at his head, and he lay down on it in that place to sleep. And then he dreamed, and behold, a ladder was set upon the earth, and the top reached heaven, and there the angels of God were ascending and descending on it. And behold, the Lord said above it, I am the Lord God of Abraham, your father, and God of Isaac. The land on which you lie, I will give to you and your descendants. Also your descendants shall be as dust of the earth. You shall spread abroad to the west, to the east, to the north, and the south. And in you and in your seed all the families of the earth shall be blessed. Behold, I am with you and will keep you wherever you go. And I will bring you back to this land, for I will not leave you until I have done what is spoken to you. And then Jacob awoke from his sleep and said, surely the Lord is in this place, and I did not know it. And he was afraid, and he said, how awesome is this place? This is none other than the house of God, the gate of heaven. Now, a little side note, this gate of heaven idea is very important in the Jewish culture. When a Jewish person dies, they're buried with their feet pointing to this spot, to this land. So when the time comes, they're ready to begin their journey to the gate to heaven. It's symbolic, I know, but it's just beautiful. And I know this because my aunt in England is buried in such a fashion. Her and her husband did so much work restoring the cemetery that when she died, they gave them the first two spots closest to the gate, and her feet are facing those gates. And the idea is when her husband dies, they'll be able to hold hands and be the first two to walk toward the gates of heaven. But back to the story. Then Jacob rose early in the morning and took the stone that he had put at his head and set it up as a pillar, poured oil on top of it, and he called the place Bethel. But the name of that city had been given Luz previously. Then Jacob made a vow, saying, if God be with me and keep me in this way, and I'm going to keep me in this way that I am going, and give me bread to eat and clothing to put on, so that I come back to my father's house in peace, then the Lord shall be my God, And this stone which I have set as a pillar shall be God's house. And all that you give me, I will surely give a tenth back. These are some of my favorite passages in this story. Because he's fled. He's emotionally drained. He's running from his brother. He's lost. He has his birthright, but he doesn't know what that means. If he goes back, he knows he will be killed. He doesn't know what his life will look at. And it's late, so he decides to sleep. And he grabs a rock to sleep on. The hardest, most uncomfortable thing that he can find. Not curling up with a satchel or a piece of cloth. He grabs a rock, puts it under his head, and dreams. This is symbolic or metaphysical. Remember the white stone ceremony? It came from Revelation, a prisoner revelation. A prisoner is given a white stone upon his release from jail to carry it around. And that stone represents that he has paid his debt to society. That stone is freedom. Stone represents freedom. Jacob, resting his head on a stone, metaphysically, he's setting his mind where it can run free. In this state, he sees angels or messengers from God going up and down the ladder to communicate with him. What he's doing, folks, he's meditating. His mind is running free. He's going to that quiet place, and he's communicating with his higher self. I always love that because they don't talk about meditation much in religion. But he's describing meditation as Jesus does later. We've all had those crossroad moments where we've needed to be quiet and rest our head and let it run free. And this is what that represents to me. He's listening to the God within. He's probably done this before. He was very comfortable doing it. Now, knowing that he's in the land that is promised to his father, he names it Bethel. And then he takes a vow to God, if God be with me, I will give him 1/10. He's setting up what we now know as tithing. He's swearing 1/10 of his income on the gratitude for all that God has given him. So Jacob wanders on, comes to a well. Lots of things happen at wells in the Bible. Wells show up all the time. People watering themselves and their flocks. And he sees a lady named Rebekah with her father's sheep, and he turns out she's one of Laban's daughters. And he helps her water the sheep. And he walks up to her and kisses her, and he weeps. Probably wept because he just kissed his cousin. And he was not sent to run from inbreeding, but sent into inbreeding. And he asks to work for Laban, and they strike a deal. Because he's a relative, he must work for free. You get this, son? If you're watching? So Laban says, if you work for me for 7 years, I will give you my daughter. And Jacob loved Rachel, so he agreed. 7 years later went by, and Laban offers his daughter. But he offers his oldest daughter, Leah, telling him it's not allowed to give the younger daughter first. So he had to serve another 7 years to get the hand of Rachel. He now has 2 wives. Rachel could not have kids, so he was given Rachel's servant. Leah was able to have kids, and they had Reuben, Simeon, Levi, Judah, Issachar, Zebulun, and Dinah. And it gets really confusing because after Judah, Leah could not have kids anymore. So she gives Jacob her servant, Zilpah, and she has Gad and Asher. And after that, then she can have kids again, and she has 3 more. Meanwhile, Rachel gives the servant, and she has 2 kids, Dan and Naphtali. And Jacob is very angry because she cannot have children, and then she's able to have children. And eventually she gives Joseph, and later on, Benjamin. It's a mess. But these names become important because these are considered the male names, the 12 tribes of Israel. Reuben, Simeon, Levi, Judah, Issachar, Zebulun, Dan, Naphtali, Gad, Asher, Joseph, and Benjamin. Why are these important? These set up the lineage for what happens in so much of the rest of the Old Testament. Joseph is the brother that's tricked, sold into slavery, is left in a pit for lions, sold into slavery, goes to Egypt, eventually rises in prominence. And when the famine happens and they need grain, they go to Egypt, and it's Joseph that they have to deal with. And we get that great line, what you intended for evil, God intended for good. That's also how the Israelites went to Egypt and became slaves. Because when that Pharaoh died, the next Pharaoh didn't see them as free people and enslaved them. From Levi's tribe, we get the most influential, probably the most influential guy of the New Testament, Moses. From the tribe of Judah, we get David. And if you go by the begats, this is where we get Jesus. And if you want to follow it into the 20th century, this is supposedly where Emperor Haile Selassie comes from, who is also known as Rastafari and Rastafarianism. So at this point, Jacob has 11 kids, and he wants to take his family back to his homeland. But Laban wants him to stay. Jacob had been taking care of Laban's animals, and the flock grew immensely, and Laban didn't want to let that go. He's prospered very well. So Laban makes a deal that Jacob can keep many of the flock if he stays. And they decided on the spotted and streaked animals that they will be Jacob's. But then Laban tries to take all the spotted and streaked animals and hides them. Jacob is clever. He grabs a few remaining ones, keeps them together, and mates them till his flock is huge. This really bothers Laban. Jacob realizes now stepfather's angry, he must go. So he gathers his family and flock and flees. And before fleeing, however, Rachel steals the household items of Laban. So Laban pursues Jacob and catches them. He believes Jacob has taken too much. He doesn't know who stole the items. But he's mad. He lost his items, he lost his daughters, his grandkids, his animals, and he wants it all back. And Jacob recounts, he catches him, and Jacob recounts all that he had done for Laban. Now Laban has cheated and let it be. He's stolen nothing. Oh, he explains to Laban how Laban has cheated and he let it be. How he's stolen nothing. And if he can find the idols, then death to the one who took them. He did not know it, but it was Rachel. At that time, they did not find the idols, and a deal was made for them to continue. Now, Jacob is very worried now. Although Laban is no longer in pursuit of him, he realized he has to face his brother Esau, who he fled from. And he's struggling with this, and how can God let this happen? Jacob got up, Genesis 22:23. Jacob got up in the middle of the night, took his wives, his 11 children, and everything he owned, and crossed to the other side of the Jabbok River for safety. And afterwards, Jacob went and spent the night alone. A man came and fought with Jacob until just before daylight. When the man saw he could not win, he struck Jacob on the hip and threw it out of joint. And they kept wrestling until the man said, "Let go of me, it's almost daylight." "I can't let go of you until you bless me," said Jacob. Then the man asked, "What is your name?" "Jacob," he answered. And the man from now on said, "Your name will no longer be Jacob, you will be called Israel, because you have wrestled with God and with man, and you have won." So he has this vision. He's all tied up inside. He seems like he's fighting with everyone, from Laban, from man, life's events, to God. And somehow he knows he's come out of it. God gives him the name Israel. Now Jacob meets his brother Esau, and Esau was not angry because Esau's done well, and he hugs his brother. So they settle into a life. Then Jacob's daughter, Dinah, sleeps with a Canaanite man who is considered dirty. He's uncircumcised. Now the rift with the Canaanites begin, and that rift carries on for 1,000 years at least, because we know Jesus meets a Canaanite woman 1,000 years later, and he treats her as she's impure. See, this story up of Jacob at this point is one that we all should know because it's the epicenter of what follows. First and foremost, it's the story of how the man gets the name Israel. He wrestles with all, including God, and God gives him this name. Later on in the story, God reassures him, this is the name I give you. He also reassures him of the promise of the land. So when you hear them talk about the people of Israel, this is where that comes from. This is the story of the promised land between the people of Israel and God. To this day, again, people are fighting and dying over that promise. And this is the story that many of the other stories come through. Moses, Jesus, Samuel, King David, Goliath, and so on. And it's just good reading. And there are a few lessons, and I didn't really want to bring them up because of the story. And the story goes on, and I could really go 20 pages on this. But the lessons are, if you're at a crossroads, slow down, rest yourself, take a moment, communicate with your higher self, and sort your stuff out. The lesson between Jacob and Esau is time heals all wounds. So if you're fighting with someone, let it go and get back to life. And the other thing is people will hold grudges and prejudices, and they will do it for thousands of years. It's still happening today in many aspects of this story. So choose your words, choose how you treat people, and remember, we're all just people. And that is it. So I thank you. Hear a song and then we'll do the meditation. Kevin, that was wonderful. I was sitting back there thinking that I wouldn't mind doing a talk on John Newton and Phyllis Wheatley and their friendship. John Newton is the guy that wrote Amazing Grace, and Phyllis Wheatley was a 12-year-old slave girl who became a poet, and they developed a friendship. And why that's unique is that John Newton, before he had his conversion, was a slave trader. So I'd like to start with prayers of the people. If there's anyone that you are thinking of, bring them to the forefront of your mind. At any time, at any moment in the world, people are fighting battles, brave battles, some known, some not known. They're fighting addiction, illness, poverty, oppression. They're fighting just depression, the ability to get out of bed or to get out of their house. Some are hungry, some sad. And there's also those who have everything, and we just hope that they know that they can share and there's enough to go around for everyone. There's enough love for each person. There's enough caring for each person. We offer that to the world. We are the ripple that becomes the wave. So if you're thinking of someone, think of the world in general, or anyone in between. Again, hold them to the forefront of your mind. We affirm their wholeness, their health, their happiness. We affirm that they are true to their beliefs, true to their core. They're wrapped in the love that we offer them and that the rest of the world can offer them. We affirm that hatred will be diminished, that there's no place for hatred on our earth. There's no place for hunger or suffering. There's no place for oppression. We affirm that we strive for the best in each of us to reach the best of them. And so it is. Amen. Today's meditation, I ask you to take in a deep breath. Get comfortable. And breathe in each moment. We come together knowing that there's one power, one presence in our lives and in the universe. God, the good and great omnipresence. I'd like each of you to picture being bathed in light that surrounds you. Each of us has an energy force that's part of our being. It's our connection to all that is around. Picture this light as warm and glowing and gentle. And pinpoint this light till it's bright. Just a spot over your head, but a bright spot. It enters the top of your head and fills your head with light, giving you clarity of thought and healthy sight and hearing. Gives you clear use of your mind and use of wisdom. Now allow this hot light Move down your neck and across your shoulders. Healing and releasing as it goes. Out from your shoulders, down your arms, to your fingertips. Loosening the joints, relaxing the muscles. And this light travels again down your back. Picture your back muscles bathed in light. Warmth feeding your spine, the lower back, moving down the back of your legs. Allowing it to relax your muscles. Picture down your feet. Your ankles and toes. Each moment, healing that part that needs to be healed, strengthening that part that needs to be strengthened. Now bring this light up the front of your legs, to your knees, allowing that to settle into your knees and loosen the joints. Up the front of your legs to your abdomen. Within your abdomen, all your organs, each one bathed in light, glowing, getting stronger and healthier. If you need, see each organ as pink and functioning. The kidney, the liver, the heart, pancreas, intestines, the lungs. Breathe in, allow those lungs to fill up. And move that light back up, back to the top of our head. Any negative exits our body. We're completely bathed in healing light. It's this healing light that now glows and expands as we send it off to the world. Take a few more deep breaths, allowing your lungs to fill as much as they can. And then slowly just exhaling. I invite you to come back to me and we'll do the prayer of tithes and offerings. Just kind of roll out of it and get comfortable back in the room. As you come out of it, Tracy will take the collections around. divine love as me, blesses and multiplies all that I am, all that I have, all that I give, and all that I receive. And so it is. Amen. And join me for the prayer of protection. The light of God surrounds me. The love of God enfolds me. The power of God protects me. The presence of God watches over me. Wherever I am, God is, and all is well, and we are richly blessed. I thank you all so much. And the peace song.